Hey guys, it's PhilosopherKing. How's it going? This is me against Sarah Kerrigan, who I've never played before, but that doesn't mean she's good, doesn't mean she's bad either. So, anyway, I like Cloister. That wasn't a good matchup against the Gengar, so I switched my Celebi. Celebi took the Thunderbolt, and I went for Calm Mind as the Hypnosis missed. Hypnosis connects the next time as I try to go for Psychic. It doesn't work out. I stay in, being stubborn, try to wake up, but he switches to Metagross, and realizing that's not a good matchup, I switch to my Swampert. Her Meteor Mash, that is, misses as the Swampert comes in. It wouldn't have done that much anyway. I go for Protect in case it decides to boom. It doesn't, so Celebi gets in for free. We both switch. My opponent double switches to Metagross, and I go to my Metagross. I decide to stay and play the blow for blow game. I go for Earthquake. It misses. Sarah decides to go for Scarm instead, which is a fine choice. As I bring the Cloister in, she brings in a first layer of Spikes, and I go for my first layer of Spikes. But unfortunately, it's a Toxic set on the Scarm, and basically now I just have to get all the Spikes on the field because Cloister over time is going to die. So I get 2 layers of Spikes up before the Gengar forces me to switch out. Celebi comes in, take the Thunderbolt, which that's the second time that I've seen Thunderbolt. I haven't seen Ice Punch yet, but maybe my opponent's just being really conservative and just doesn't want to use it. So anyway, I get put to sleep, and I go to my Articuno in case my opponent decides to spam Hypnosis, but she switches to Jirachi instead. She goes for Psychic. I don't take that much damage, and I roar out the Coon, which I haven't seen before. I take Spikes damage. She tries to bring the Metagross in, which is a good counter to Articuno, but I roar out the Jirachi again. It takes Spikes damage, and I take a Fire Punch as I roar out the Coon once again. I take Surf as I roar out the Gengar, and now I'm realizing I'm not going to see anything else that I haven't seen before, so I bring my Celebi in. And once again, the Gengar goes for Thunder Punch instead of Ice Punch. Did I say Thunder Punch? If I did, I meant Thunderbolt. It goes for Thunderbolt instead of Ice Punch. I connect with Psychic to get a crit, not a huge deal thanks to the 4x resist. My opponent goes for Wish as they go for Leech Seed. I quickly go to Metagross as my opponent goes for Calm Mind. The Jirachi's at full health, but Leech Seed damage kicks in, bringing it down to 87%. And Fire Punch connects. Fortunately, I don't get burned because of Serene Grace, and I go to get an Earthquake off, and Leech Seed damage after that brings it down to 25%. Wish is incoming, but my Metagross won't survive another Fire Punch, so I'm going to be forced to switch here. I take a risk by bringing Gengar in. I figured Fire Punch was really tempting for my opponent, so much so that she wouldn't go for Psychic. And it works out in my favor. She goes for Wish instead, which I think was a huge risk. If I had decided to stay in there, her Jirachi would have died. But it dies anyway to Gengar. Fire Punch takes it out. I could have gone for Thunderbolt, but at +1 I wasn't confident it would take it out. So I go for Fire Punch. And then next turn the Metagross comes in, I land a Will-O-Wisp, and the Meteor Mash misses, so I got that off for free. But the Metagross does get an attack raise next turn after I go for Fire Punch, but the burn really makes that not worth it. So yeah, my opponent is forced to switch. I go for Thunderbolt. My opponent goes for Calm Mind with Coon. I'm going to stay here and try to take it out, but unfortunately the Calm Mind boost plus the weak special attack on my Gengar allows the Coon to rest off. It would have been disastrous if she got parried on that same turn, but she didn't. So the Coon's asleep at +1. My Gengar's not going to be doing a whole lot. My opponent predicts my switch to Articuno to phase out the Coon, and that works out for her, but I quickly switch my Gengar as the Metagross explodes, so that worked out for me. So now she answers with Gengar, so it's Gar on Gar. I'm not really digging that matchup. So go to my Celebi once again, and that's just like another opportunity. She could have gone for Ice Punch, so I stay in while asleep thinking she doesn't have it, but she reveals it finally, and so that's going to force me to switch out to Articuno. And yeah, I take a Thunderbolt, I go for Ice Beam, and next Thunderbolt forces me to rest. So at only doing around like 29 to like 35%. Thunderbolts aren't going to be doing a whole lot. So my opponent should probably switch here, but she's testing the waters, goes for another Thunderbolt, and I get a lucky Sleep Talk with Ice Beam, so the Gengar's at 44%. She realizes it's not a winning battle, so she switches to Coon. But in my sleep, I land Roar, which brings the Celebi back out. Celebi goes for Leech Seed as I go for Ice Beam, and when I wake up next turn, after Leech Seed, my Ice Beam is not doing a whole lot. Ice Beam should be doing a little more if it's a normal Celebi, but the Celebi looks like it has special defense investment, which is something I should consider when I build the Articuno EVs up. I think I'm going to add some special attack later on. But for now, I bring my Metagross in against the Celebi. I go for Meteor Mash, and my opponent brings the Scarm in to take it. That forces me to switch to my Gengar. And right now, the Gengar is looking pretty hot on my team. No, it's not good looking or anything. It's just that my opponent doesn't seem to be doing very well against it. Skarmory doesn't want it. Celebi doesn't want it. The level of health it has, and Coon doesn't want it. Metagross isn't really. Well, Metagross is dead. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? Hold on a minute. What's the other poke? What is the other poke? Skarm, Gengar. Gengar's the only thing really that could take on the Gengar right now. My Gengar, that is. And it doesn't want to switch into it, so my opponent's having some Gengar issues. But the Celebi right now, after spikes, is at 85%. I bring my Articuno in. Leech Seed connects. My Ice Beam only does 44% that time, so that's not good. I bring my Celebi in just because the Gengar could be an issue, so I want to heal it up with Recover. My opponent is going to be able to get another Calm Mind up, and so now I believe it's at +2. No, it's at +1 right now. So it only got one Calm Mind up, and now it gets another Calm Mind up as I bring my Articuno in. Psychic connects is a massive 37% by a live, but unfortunately I roar out the Gengar, and given the level of health I'm not confident I'll live. So the plan is just to switch to Celebi and get some leftovers Recover in the Articuno if I decide to bring it in, and then rest off at a later time. So yeah, there's really no reason to stay in here and test the waters to see if I live. I have perfectly healthy Celebi to take the damage. And my opponent anticipates a switch, goes for Hypnosis, and Hypnosis misses again next turn, which allows me to take it out with Psychic. So it's a 6-3 game. I mean, that's kind of the nature of the beast. Hypnosis is an inaccurate move, so you gotta expect those things. And even if it did connect, I still would have had ways to deal with it, so I don't think it was a huge game changer despite the hacks. I land a Leech Seed on the Coon to make sure it doesn't try to set up. And so I bring my Kuno back in. I think I've been calling it Coon the entire time. I'm not sure. Coon, Kuno, they all blend together. So if I made a mistake, sorry guys, you know what I mean. But anyway, I bring my Cloyster in. With the Gengar dead, I can Rapid Spin those spikes away, and I do so. Celebi comes in. I'm taking toxic damage, but I'm going to try to bait the Celebi into using Recover. I go for Ice Beam. My opponent decides to use Leech Seed. This should prompt my opponent to go for Recover, and then I'll just go for Boom. Which is kind of risky with the Skarm, but I don't think my opponent's going to want to switch out against the Cloyster. There's really no reason to, unless he anticipates the Boom. But he doesn't. He goes for Calm Mind rather than Recover, which is good enough for me. The same end result. I take it out with Explosion, so it's a 5-2 game. My opponent only has Skarm and Coon. And I don't know why I'm bringing the Articuno in. I don't even know why I should have it in there. I can just bring my Gar in and start sweeping the rest of his team. So I just go for a Psychic for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I finally kind of snap to my senses and immediately go to Gengar. My opponent's going for Spikes for some reason. I'm not sure why. I guess that's all he can do. Protect shows itself, but next turn Protect fails, which allows me to take out the Skarm. And now the Coon's at 50%, and so it's not going to be able to boost up or anything given that level of health, so it goes for Surf. Even with a critical hit, I would have lived, and next turn I should be able to take it out. So at the end of the day, this is going to be a 5-0 game in a very unusually fast-paced battle. I felt I was talking really fast. But yeah, my opponent doesn't actually let my Gengar take up the Coon. We just talk a bit, and eventually the timer times out. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was a very well-played game. Only a couple mistakes on both sides, so this is, I would consider maybe an average to above average level game. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. I would say the two things that mattered were, one, my opponent staying in with the Jirachi after it was seeded, and that allowed the Jirachi to get to a low level of health, and that eventually allowed Wish on the Jirachi not to be very useful in healing itself. So the Jirachi was taken out really early, which mattered, I think. And two, the unusual Gengar set, I think, surprised my opponent. I think my opponent would not. I don't think my opponent expected Will-O-Wisp and Fire Punch to be on the same set, which allowed me to catch him by surprise. And I felt like, I guess three was the fact that in addition to the element surprise, I also had a lot of momentum on my side. Momentum rarely left my side of the field, and so basically the entire time my opponent was always on the defensive, and basically over time that allowed me to take the victory. So yeah, lesson over. Rate, comment, subscribe, and look forward to the next battle.